Hey everyone, welcome to What the Flick. Matt, Christy, Alonzo. Another movie this week about the Boston Marathon bombing. We had Patriots Day last year, and now from director David Gordon Green, we get Stronger.
Yes, this is a not very David Gordon Green-ish David Gordon Green movie, and yet that's who directed it. So, hi. So Jake Gyllenhaal stars as Jeff Bauman. The movie is based on Jeff Bauman's memoir. He went to the finish line of the Boston Marathon to cheer on his on-again, off-again girlfriend, played by Tatiana Maslany, and happened to be standing right where the bomber left his device and happened to actually see the bomber, and he lost both of his legs. So this is his story about coming back from that and working through the physical and emotional pain and trying to create a life for himself again, and it's really good. Take a look.
Listen up. This young lady here is running the marathon for Brigham and Women's Hospital. So skip around Estella and donate to a good cause. I'm gonna be there at the finish line for you. I'm gonna make a big sign for you.
Doesn't show up for anything. And then he shows up.
So this is on paper, kind of a formulaic, feel-good story, it's true, inspiring story of redemption and failure and learning and all that. It is surprisingly more honest and more, I think, emotionally truthful and more grounded than all of that might suggest. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't try to make us like this person all the time. He's kind of an asshole a lot of the time.
Right, and he's charming.
He's charming when we first meet him, but he handles things poorly. He's not always a good guy when the situation calls for him to be.
Right, he's charming, he's wildly irresponsible, he's kind of a fuck up, he drinks a lot, and he and his buddies and his brother, they screw around a bunch. I mean, the scene where they go driving around is the arguing over who's too drunk to drive. And then he's driving.
Right, it's like funny and horrifying at the same time.
Right, funny and horrifying. And the movie does a good job of showing how people in Boston react to him and have elevated him to this heroic status, partly because he helped identify one of the bombers. And it takes a long time before he even begins to understand the headspace that a lot of the citizens of Boston have put him in, and why that's important. And initially, all that attention, it's given him PTSD. And there's that scene in the elevator after the hockey game where
he has to go to the Bruins game and again be a symbol of hope for everybody.
And there's the scene in the elevator where he has that kind of flashback and he starts talking and you start hearing him say things that don't really make any sense. And then when you understand later what he's saying, and part of that is that the script is really honest with who this character is, who this person was, and I think Gyllenhaal puts in a good performance. We've seen him be really intense. This is a role that I think he plays really well. Kind of like it's back to somewhat of the goofy kid that we grew up seeing him play, and he kind of taps into that. It's this boyish character, and Gyllenhaal inhabits that really well, and I think he does really well. I also want to point out, I think Tatiana Maslany does terrific in this. I think she's such a great actress. As an orphan black fan, I'm gonna say the obvious thing. It's a little weird to see her play one character for the entire movie.
I don't know, you say on paper that this seems like a feel-good movie, and I kind of feel like on film it's that too. And I don't know, I mean, yes, you're right. The movie makes an effort to make Bauman complicated and not always heroic. And I just kept feeling like this is a real guy. And I feel like he's more interesting than this movie is. His story is more interesting than this movie is. It just seemed to me to be such a traditional arc and such a rebounding from tragedy story with bumps along the way. I don't know, it all felt really familiar, and I just kept thinking this guy deserves a better movie than this because he's been through some real shit. And I did like that the movie explored the notion of everyone telling you you're a hero when you're just trying to get through the day and trying to get through the nightmares and trying to figure out if you're gonna be able to make your body work again the way that you want it to and all that stuff.
People want you to touch him all the time.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, like
and that bothers him.
Like he's a saint.
Right, and he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and survive it.
Right.
And that's what makes him a hero. But then there's a scene.
Well, but
toward
also
the end,
helping identify
that's
one
a
of
big
the
deal
Sornayas,
too. No,
right?
but there's a scene toward the end at Fenway. He has to go throw out the first pitch at a Red Sox game, and there's a scene where someone approaches him, and it's really surprisingly moving, and it's a scene that could have been super mawkish, and it's just an understated way that it plays out, and that is where David Gordon Green's sort of filmic through line makes sense here, because he downplays and underplays scenes that could be super
I do like that moment a lot, although as much as I like David Gordon Green, I left this movie thinking he's really got to stop doing true stories, because the last one he did, you'll recall, was the Our Brand is Crisis movie that was based on the documentary, which was terrible.
I forgot that. No, but again,
and this one's not that bad, but I still felt kind of disappointed.
But again, on paper, the guy who made small, intimate, quiet indies like All the Real Girls or George Washington, or Joe or Prince Avalanche, like this doesn't make any sense to be a big, heartwarming, feel-good film with a lot of visual effects. By the way, I gotta say, like all of the
all the leg stuff is faked very well.
Amazing. It's a bigger movie. I mean, like giant set pieces at a Bruins game, at a Red Sox game.
At the marathon.
Yeah, it's a bigger movie than we've seen from him before. And I thought, this makes no sense he'd make this movie.
But he's hard to pigeonhole, though. I mean, he made The Sitter and Your Highness.
Express.
Yeah, and he's about to do the Halloween, thing with Jamie Lee Curtis.
I'd like you to talk about how there's some honesty here and some these smaller moments where I think the movie really. That's some of the best scenes that the movie has. The scene where they're changing the dressing.
I want to talk about that. Yes, that's the best scene in the whole movie.
Is terrific. Yeah. It's absolutely terrific. And for a long time, like you get, he doesn't want to see, and it's really painful, and you're kind of on the edge of your seat, and it's very tense.
And it's all one take.
And it's all it's
one long take.
One long take. There's a scene early on where the nurses come in and kind of talk to him, and they're just really matter of fact and gentle with him.
Those are Jeff Bauman's actual nurses, by the way.
Yeah, and they were great. They were great.
You can tell they are. They bring authenticity to it.
And one of the scenes I liked later in the movie with Tatiana Maslany and Miranda Richardson is the scene where they're coming out to the car, and Maslany starts yelling at him like, "You don't understand how everybody else's life has changed around you," which is something that it's this weird thing that you would imagine that's really hard to tell someone like Bauman who's gone through this. But the reality is, his later wife changes her life. His mother changes her life. It does have this huge effect on the people around him. And for him to still be getting hammered and drinking his way past this, that a movie let somebody point that out in a way that didn't villainize her for saying it, that kind of made you feel both sides of it. I was impressed by it. I thought that was a really strong scene. Miranda Richardson, I thought, was great at it.
I want to talk about Miranda Richardson. I think she is a great actress, but she is really overdoing the Boston thing. In fact, there's a scene. There's that scene early on when the Costco boss. By the way, according to this movie, Costco is a great place to work if you are in a terrible accident. That they may go out of their way to tell you what good care Costco took of Jeffrey Bauman.
Good benefits.
Apparently so. There's a scene where he shows up at the hospital soon after the bombing, just with a basket of muffins, and the Bauman family is all angry, and they think he's a press guy trying to sneak in or whatever, and they all start yelling at him. And I was thinking, oh man, David Gordon Green is so good at kind of these sort of blue collar stories, movies like Joe or Prince Avalanche or George Washington or whatever. This felt like those Beverly and Ronna scenes from The Heat. When you meet Melissa McCarthy's family and they're all yelling at each other. It was like that. It was like, this is a bad comedy moment.
Everything with the friends and the family feels like a bad parody of Good Will Hunting. As far as they're from Chelmsford, they got this accent.
Chelmsford, guys, calm down.
She's posh by comparison. Yeah, it seems, and maybe that truly is what his friends and family are like. But
the portrayal of it, they turns again. These are real people who went through this thing. The movie turns them them into caricatures.
Yeah, Jeff Bauman was on set, but he wouldn't go on set. He would wait in the parking lot. I read a whole story about this, where he didn't want to see it and relive it, but if they wanted to come to him to consult with him about certain moments or beats or emotions or whatever, he was there. But yeah, the scene with the bandages, which is the most powerful and like most beautifully shot scene in the whole movie. It's over the shoulders, and you could see the bandages being changed kind of in blur in the background. He didn't necessarily mean to make that how the shot was. Like they did one version of that scene from that perspective
to get that coverage,
and just kept it because it's so powerful. And then that's his actual doctor, that's the actual nurse. They're actually the ones who did that for the real Jeff Bauman, and I think that the way they handle themselves in that scene too brings an authenticity to it. But yeah, you're holding your breath, like, oh my God, how long is this going to go on? And so,
and they keep asking him, like, do you need more of whatever the drug was? And he's like, yeah,
fentanyl.
You need more fentanyl.
Killed Michael Jackson. Shit, yeah, let's get some more of that.
I thought it was propofol.
Yeah, you're right. Same thing. All bad drugs.
Whatever.
Not when you're getting your bandages removed, apparently.
Anyway, I was surprised at how much I like this. I'm giving it a 7.2.
I was kind of let down. I mean, because I think that Gyllenhaal's really been on a roll of interesting movies that on paper seem like they're just sort of naked award grabs, but they're actually him doing interesting things and finding interesting facets. And I would include Demolition in there, which not a lot of people saw, that I liked a lot. But with Southpaw and with Nightcrawler, that kind of thing, and he's fine. He does what he's supposed to do in this. But the movie, it felt just formulaic and it didn't really work for me. So for me, it's a 5.5.
Yeah, I liked it more than you. I give it a 7. I'd get more points, but I kept expecting the clones to come in.
I don't get it.
Oh, Tatiana Maslany.
Oh, I never seen that show in my life. I've just had the Britney Spears Stronger song in my head for like days. It's driving me crazy. So our number's a 6.6. It's at 96% on the tomato meter. Everyone likes it. Awards bait. Bye.